Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump wins yet again. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is huge. By the way, have a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving week. Drive safe. Be happy. God bless you all watching this. New York Sun, the New York Sun, a wonderful publication. Triumph for Trump in Georgia as Fani Willis's criminal election interference prosecution of the president is finally over. Really quickly. In addition to the New York Sun, I want to show you the Washington Post. The Post publishes correction on Trump call with Georgia investigator. This is why Trump calls certain information fake and phony news. The Washington Post ran a correction because potentially, well, I wouldn't say they deliberately misquoted Trump, but millions of people possibly were fed information that misinforms, because according to the New York Post, Washington Post runs correction, admitting it misquoted Trump. The Washington Post itself, the Post publishes correction on Trump call with Georgia official. Vox, the Washington Post correction about the Trump phone call. They literally fabricated quotes. Trump did not tell the investigator to, quote, find the fraud, or say she would be a national hero if she did so. Instead, Trump urged the investigator to scrutinize, asserting that they'd find dishonesty. The point, ladies and gentlemen, is that he did not use, this is from the Steele dossier to the Washington Post, almost, well, I wouldn't say deliberately misquoting Trump, but from the Steele dossier to the Washington Post misquoting Trump to so many examples where CNN and others, including the Washington Post, the New York Times, had to retract stories. This story was never about Trump pressuring people to do illegal activity. That's why the case was dismissed. But check this out.
In Fulton County election interference case is dropping the charges against President Trump and other co-defendants. Chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky has these breaking details for us. So, Aaron, this prosecutor took over after the previous prosecutor, Fani Willis, was disqualified for accusations of misconduct. So why is this new prosecutor looking to drop this case now?
He says that never before and hopefully never again will our country face circumstances such as these, the effort to overturn the 2020 election results, but in a 23-page decision.
By the way, the efforts to overturn the results were done through the courts. Trump was not on top of, that meme of Trump on the tank with eagles and bison and, laser beams coming from his eyes. And that never happened, although that happened in the minds of Democrats. That terrible day in January that shouldn't have taken place. But that meme of Trump on the tank. Okay, he never did that. He never tried to do anything illegal. He went through the courts. President Trump went through the courts. He lost at that time through the courts. He's winning over 93% of the time in the Supreme Court. Okay, that's according to the Brennan Center. Even though 80+% of the time, lower courts or federal courts rule against him. They're almost always on the unconstitutional wrong side of history. That's why the Supreme Court routinely says, sorry, federal court, you're wrong. Trump, we're going to give you this victory. So the Supreme Court, Trump wins. During his presidency, his second term, over 93% of the time. That's one, stat. And then he won a unanimous Supreme Court decision over the Colorado State Supreme Court when he was running in 24. We can go on forever. They tried to kick him off the ballot. But that's the point. They tried to kick him off the ballot, stating that he tried to foment a rebellion. This is completely absurd. And it happens when the Washington Post and others misquote Trump and create and almost fabricate some kind of hysterical narrative that Trump was trying to do something illegal during a phone call that was leaked. But where are the phone calls with Biden? Or where are they? I mean, it's like the actual emails that were published, the DNC emails, the WikiLeaks DNC emails published in The Guardian, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and elsewhere. Okay, publishers published the emails. They were not misquoted. They cheated Bernie Sanders in 2016. We're still living in 2016. They cheated Bernie Sanders. They talked about graft and bribery with Bill and Hillary, the campaign emails. Their actual emails, the actual emails on Hunter's laptop linked to Biden being the big man, you didn't have to misquote anything. If you quote Democrats properly and accurately within their own writing, coming from their own hands, you find rampant, almost certainly rampant criminality or corruption. But you have to misquote Trump. You have to purchase a Steele dossier. They got nothing on Trump. That's why in New York, that's going to be overturned. The conviction for hush money. According to the FEC chairman, he could have paid Stormy with dollar bills. It wouldn't have been a conviction, or the FEC and the DOJ dropped the case. They have to lie about Trump because the truth about what their own writing details, whether it's the DNC emails or Hunter's laptop or their actual writing. That's why they surveilled Trump from day one. They said he has to be doing what we're doing. If you read the actual emails from the DNC or the emails that were addressed by the New York Post and the Daily Mail and others in Hunter's laptop linked to Biden and potential bribery and graft, if you read those emails without misquoting them or without adding any words, you see rampant criminality and almost certain corruption and you see almost certain rampant criminality and corruption. But you have to misquote Trump. That's the point. You have to use a Steele dossier. But let's continue.
Peter Skandalakis, who was the head of this nonpartisan independent group that took over the case from Fani Willis, says the case is now nearly 5 years removed from President Trump's infamous phone call with the Secretary of State in Georgia asking for extra votes so that he could win the state and therefore the election. He says
he did not ask for extra votes. The theme of the call, even the subtext was, well, if you did your job correctly, I would have won a red state. That's what essentially he was stating.
2 years have passed since the grand jury returned charges, and there's no
and Democrats, because if there was a picture of Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or any Democrat with this type of picture, it would be game over for them. With Trump, it only made him stronger because everyone knows they were setting up and framing Trump, while at the same time they were covering up almost certain criminal activity. Trump didn't have private servers with top secret intelligence transferred onto them, but he has a mugshot. Trump didn't have a laptop with almost certain bribery and graft that 50 intel officials lied about, but he has a mugshot. Trump doesn't have Joe Biden's laptop or Hillary Clinton's private servers with top secret intelligence transferred onto them. He was a president with the power to declassify. Trump didn't try to foment a rebellion. That's why the Supreme Court unanimously, even the liberal justices, overturned the unconstitutional Colorado ban. They wanted to ban him off the ballot. And God bless this man. He survived 2 attempts on his life, and one in Butler, Pennsylvania, where a firefighter lost his life protecting his family. And still James Comey, the honorable, quote unquote, James Comey, puts 8647 that he found on seashells. But that's what's outlandish about everything. Comey says he found those numbers because somebody found a bunch of seashells and wanted to display that despicable statement, just walking. It's so outlandish. It's so ridiculous. But President Trump gets the mugshot. And it's like all of this, he won today. He won today because the whole thing was completely outlandish to begin with.
Realistic prospect that a sitting president will be compelled to appear in Georgia to stand trial on the allegations in the indictment. And so he concludes, he says in his professional judgment, that the citizens of Georgia are not served by pursuing this case in full.
Nobody is served because he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't commit a crime. It was likely an illegally leaked phone call. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel, New York Sun. Triumph for Trump. Hit subscribe. God bless you all.